They can't see us yet, by the way.
I'm Philip Shane, a documentary filmmaker and a huge fan of the video game Myst. I was blown away by this game, and Myst for me was, for games, what Star Wars was for movies. Never had seen anything like it. I was just completely swept away into this whole other universe. Take the story of these two brothers, Robin and Rand Miller, and a few of their colleagues, living in this double-wide trailer in the woods outside Spokane, made a video game that became the most popular game in the world.
Myst, the best-selling PC game of the decade.
Nonetheless, two guys with very limited means and very limited experience. One day they wound up on stage with Steve Jobs.
And it's my great pleasure today to welcome Rand Miller on stage, the creator of Riven.
I got to start this off by telling you guys.
I played Myst when it came out in 1993. It was unlike any other game I'd ever played. It was more like being in a movie. What we think of now as virtual reality, it was kind of like that, just in the sense that the visuals were so beautiful and the sound was so fantastic. Initially, you're just alone in this world, and it's a bizarre, surreal, beautiful, but also a little bit spooky. And the story of who's there and how the world was made slowly unravels as you go through it. In making documentaries, my goals are to honor people who inspire me.
That is my first actual computer.
Whoa! And you built this?
I built it.
And help people appreciate someone or a group of people who did something extraordinary that people either don't know about or don't know the whole story.
It also contributed to my failures in college, because I would much rather have been hacking around with this thing than doing anything in school.
When I did Myst, like the Myst music, I was working with, one piece of hardware, one hardware synthesizer that was about this big.
Here's two brothers with an incredibly exciting, inspiring life story. Their life was completely transformed by this work of art that they poured their heart into. Most people don't even know who they are. I want to bring you in to meet them, but there's all these other people. People like Steve Jobs, who are famous, but also all the people we don't know very much, who were a part of making not just the Macintosh, but all the technologies that was essential to the very creation of this game.
HyperCard, what is it?
Here's a button on this wheel. So if I touch on that, it's going to other wheels. Buttons or links can be used to express thematic threads running through information.
I've had the great fortune to work on a bunch of documentaries over the past 30 years. I was always fascinated by creators. I said, has anyone made a documentary about you guys? No, and they just seemed confused by the whole idea. And I said, could I? And they were like, yes. Then they said, I don't know if you're interested, but we just finished the game. We're about to release it.
Today is a crazy day, not as crazy as yesterday, but crazy. We're launching Abduction tomorrow at 7 a.m. So yeah, I'm running on a lot of adrenaline.
And we are beginning our next project. Are you interested in following that? I was like, are you kidding? They called us geeks. They called us nerds. And one thing that makes us geeks is obsession, passion for details, for systems, for stories, and for genius. We are compelled to solve these puzzles. and to explore these worlds. And if you know what I'm talking about, I think you have a sense of what this movie's about. I really appreciate your help in making it happen. Get your rewards, and I really do want to hear what you think, no matter what level you can contribute at. This is a movie by a community for a community. Let's share. People hugging, remember that? Remember when people could do that? I don't hear Katie. Do you hear Katie?
Have I been muted this whole time? All right. Hi.
Oh, but there was no mute symbol.
No, I use this. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Fireside Chat. Everybody that's out there in TV land, we're really glad you're here. Philip probably needs no introduction. Philip Shane is the director, producer, writer, creator, editor, best boy, gaffer of the Mist documentary.
He needs no introduction except for this 5-minute, highly produced, wickedly edited video.
Right. So I know Philip has a few people he would like to introduce. So Philip, take it away.
All right. Yes. Hello, everyone. By the way, I'm Philip. I hope if for those of you out there who are Kickstarter backers of ours, I hope to have written written to you at least once. So it's nice to see you all again if you're out there. Yeah, we have, thanks to your generosity and commitment to helping this movie get made. This Brady Bunch-esque display of happy people and talented people and creative people is made possible. And there's a lot of things happening. We've been hard at work, and so I wanted to just give you a quick tour of our team here. I'm just going to go around my screen, and I'm going to start with Mr. Randall Woods is in the upper corner there. Randy and I have known each other since before Mist. Like
the 6th grade, I believe, is when it was.
That's right, 6th grade.
Yeah.
And
the last project we worked on was a 10th grade project on a book report. I think we did.
Yeah, remember? I think so. Yeah.
I remember, a map of Europe. Yeah.
I remember coloring. Yeah, gigantic. Yeah. We decided to make an enormous map of Europe and color it in colored pencils. And like all creative people, we waited till the last minute. And I remember being in your
basement.
Yeah, with colored pencils, thinking, how are we going to color this thing, which is the size of the entire wall?
And you've been getting him to help you with your homework ever since, I see.
I copied off him very much. He actually read all the books. I read three-quarters of the books, and he told me how it ended. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Adler, if you're out there.
So yes, while we were doing all that, I decided in 30 years I'm going to work on a film with you, and it's finally come true now.
It happened. Randy's a fantastic writer, journalist, editor, a lifetime of story experience, as you can see, going all the way back to at least 6th grade. Before then, I can't vouch for anything. We also have the exact same birthday. I am 7 hours older, which will become apparent throughout the conversation. If this were a 7-hour conversation, Randy would be achieving my level of maturity.
I've worked mostly on business magazines for most of my career. I've had a lifelong love of movies, and I worked for a little while at the Seattle International Film Festival, putting together their catalog. So I did some film work there. I've written up some reviews of films pretty much, but I always wanted to work with film, and this is finally an opportunity to do it. With COVID all around us, it's perfect for us to zoom our way through it. We were just working on some of the script for the film. We just worked for the last few days on that, and I worked on some of the Kickstarter stuff as well. So whatever's being written down, I'm a part of it, pretty much.
Yeah, right on. And for those who don't know, yes, documentaries can have scripts as well. It's not that. It's more like how do you and this is why it's great to have Randy on board for instance, as an experience in journalism and writing. It's scripting and documentary is like, writing, and that you do interviews, and then from those interviews you pull the sound bites and you begin to tell a story.
This is my assistant Wally too. Hi everyone.
Wally.
Hi, Wally.
He's in my lap.
And Randy is coming to us from Seattle, going all the way across the country to New York City, Manhattan. We have Professor Jay Stern, also a longtime colleague of mine and a film scholar as well as filmmaker. How are you, Jay?
I'm fine, thank you. Nice to see you virtually, as always.
Yes.
So yes, Phil mentioned I'm a filmmaker, and I guess a longtime compatriot of Phil. We were playing around in the comedy scene in New York back in the late '90s. I believe going back that far, and this is the first time working on a film with him. But I've been a long time admirer now. First time producing person. I'm helping with the producing of the film in some capacity to be determined here, but we're just now assembling our tools and getting the project going.
Yeah, and one thing that's great, I'll sort of keep emphasizing and keep coming back around to the fact that this is, I always want to make it clear, I think those of you who've given to the Kickstarter know this, but for anyone out there who's new, this is a movie. I mean, well, it's a documentary, but it's a movie, that you will see in theaters. And that is one of the things I miss the most. May not be the most sentimental thing, I suppose, that we miss, but boy, I can't wait to go back to a movie theater, see something on a big screen with other people. But a lot of people say, why are you making a missed documentary? For instance, there's a lot of great things on YouTube, for instance, and there are. But this is a film. So like those great documentaries you go see in the theater. And Jay is really wonderful filmmaker. When you mentioned we were in comedy together, we were also making comedy films. And Jay brings a lot of knowledge and even has recommended some wonderful people who are working with us as well. So now moving down to the bottom right corner, Alana, how are you? Alana has made our incredible website, which if you've not seen it, themisseddocumentary.com. Go there, sign up for our email list to get updates and things like that. How are you, Alana? Alana also in New York, but over here on my side of the East River in Brooklyn, as you can tell by her background.
I'm doing well. I miss our coffee chats, darn COVID, but I've been kind of the web developer tech girl for this project so far. There's the missdocumentary.com site. There's a press site. There's a blog site which may go public one day. I'm always emails. I'm always down to work on anything Mist related. And outside of this, I'm a software engineer, so just trying to use some of those skills for fun.
And you are a super Mist fan. We met you at Mysterium, this past Mysterium. Well, no, the one that was in 3D. The one that was
last year.
In person. 2 years.
2019. Yeah. And Kefrith says, nice background, Alana.
Yes. Hi, Kefrith.
Also, hi, Kefrith.
Yes, one of the kings of Mysterium, Kefrith.
That's right.
Alana. So now moving around the circle, we come to Katie, who you met briefly, but Katie is incredible. Katie is probably maybe only Blake or you and Blake are by far the most not even just in terms of time span connected to Mist and Cyan,
because we're so old,
but in terms of dedication. Yeah, well,
between the two of us, we could probably figure it out. How's that? When it happened and why?
Yes, and Katie runs many things. Basically, Katie and Blake in particular produced that entire Kickstarter campaign with me, which was unbelievable and amazing. And Katie's at this point running all our social media stuff as we're gearing up to do more things, beginning with this publicly anyway, at least this big holiday party. So
with lots and lots of help from many Mist fans, the Mysterium Committee, lots of help from Cyan, everyone you see here. It's definitely a team effort, and you guys all make it easy.
Indeed. Moving now, the people are moving around on the screen, which is funny. The Zoom shuffles people around. So Will has shuffled, just snuck up there in line. Will Cavendish, a fantastic documentary filmmaker. Will is working with me very much on a day-to-day producer level, bringing a lot of experience, including not just we also are science lovers and nerds, and Will in particular is a mathematician. I grant you that title. Would you go? Would you accept that identity?
Former mathematician, but yeah,
Will is going to solve the Riemann hypothesis, and if you know what that is, then kudos to Will and the $1 million he will be winning for solving that centuries-old mystery and donating it right to the Mist documentary.
Putting it right into the Mist documentary.
Sweet, yeah, sweet. Yeah, and how did we meet? It's a fun little story.
So for those who don't know, Philip also has a wonderful podcast, What the If? Find it on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. It's through his co-host, Matt Stanley, who I sort of knew through the academic world. But yeah, since then, we met up. I instantly knew I wanted to work with this guy, and then got the chance. So I'm on the film doing producerly tasks, all the fun stuff like timelines and budgets.
It's incredible. Yeah, it's that mathematical mind is able to manage a lot more than I can handle. So Will is amazing and a story genius as well. Speaking of What the If, Blake Lewin up here in my in the northwest quadrant of my screen,
but physically in the southeast.
Touche. Yeah, and so Blake came to us through. We met also at Mysterium. Passing
2019. It was a good year.
It was a good. That was a fine vintage. The 2020 vintage. Don't drink it. Don't even take the cork out.
Or just drink more to get through it.
Or drink more. Yeah, exactly. Blake, do you want to say a little bit about what you're, as I mentioned, you and Katie also help produce?
Yeah, so I've been in immersive interactive entertainment for many, many years. That's why the gray beard. But I was working business development at Cyan for quite a few years, and I was out at the Mysterium, actually at Mysterium for the first time in 2019. And I met Philip, and I was very excited to hear that he was making a motion picture, not a making of video of the
That's right.
the Miller brothers, and I think it's going to be wonderful. And I'm doing some business development, which we'll talk about later. Basically, financing, finding the right financing for the rest of the film.
Awesome. And completely randomly in one conversation, Blake and I discovered we had a NASA connection, or NASA shared love for NASA, and listen to what I'll just
plug the What If. That was a fun show.
whattheif.com, and look for the episode with Blake Lewin, and you won't believe the cool things that Blake has done in space. Yeah. Let's see who else we have in the center square, where Paul Lynn would normally be, the every bit as witty and entertaining. For those, he doesn't even know who Paul Lynn is.
I was going to say that's such a current reference.
Hollywood Square, center square, always the best. Benjamin Lewin, who is a wicked editor, wicked skills, mad skills, and cut that whole trailer, and is an amazing guy. Also edited, by the way, I've found the story of me finding Ben. What came from, I was out filming in Cyan, and I saw the Firmament trailer that they had just released, and this is absolute truth. I said to him, I don't usually look at things and say who cut that, who was the editor. I just think that was cool, and I just noticed that was the editing tour de force. I said, who cut that? I asked Rand, and he mentioned Ben, and I was like, Ben is on. So how are you doing, Ben?
Doing very well, surviving well, and staying busy.
Excellent. And we will be doing a real movie trailer at some point after we get some of our other stuff coalesced. So stand by, Ben. Get ready.
I'll be available.
Keep the fingers.
Yes, always working on my chops.
That's right. And speaking of also excellent editors, Joshua Reinstein Did I pronounce that? I don't know if I've ever used your last name before in out loud.
You,
Is that correct?
Philip, you're probably the first person to ever pronounce it correctly on the first try.
Wow, fantastic.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Tell how you found me.
Well, it's kind of a funny story. So I knew about Philip's work previously from when I was very young, and I watched a movie called Being Elmo, which is a documentary about Elmo. And I found the Mist Kickstarter, and I heard that he was working on it, and I got very excited because, oh, this is someone I knew from before, and I even went to the premiere of Being Elmo, and I met him there, so this is really cool. So I sent him an email through his website. I said, "Hi, Philip. I'm really interested in this new project you've got going on. I'm a massive fan of video games." And Philip and I started talking for a while, and eventually he offered me a job on this film. And so I've been working for the past month and a half, helping him out with anything that he needs, which is great. I'm really honored to be here, and I'm really honored to be a part of this.
Awesome. And I know Will and Joshua's been working very closely with Will and Randy and I on all kinds of things, research and story, and also just all kinds of fun technical stuff, which I think Myst fans appreciate. So if someone's a Myst fan, I'm pretty sure actually they're going to be a good assistant editor and that kind of thing too, because...
You think there are any Myst fans watching?
I hope so.
I think everyone here is a Myst fan.
Exactly. And Joshua has, speaking of Myst fans, here's something Myst fans would enjoy seeing. So film production continues, and of course, thanks to your contributions, film production is ramping up. I mean, as soon as COVID is done, we also have a lot of big plans for that. We'll get to that road trip out there and all that kind of stuff. But in the meantime, I've been doing, everything I can, even before the Kickstarter, to just how do I continue documenting in this bizarre situation where everybody suddenly would. I may have told the story during the Kickstarter, I can't remember, but before COVID, I was going out to Cyan a lot, and a lot of cool things happen. And Rand and the people at Cyan, they work very spontaneously. So stuff is always happening when I'm not there. And I thought, how do I set this up? So Jeff, who's one of their in-house guy who also does a lot of in-house video for them, he and I spent a lot of time scoping out the entire office, measuring things with tapes and holding up lights. And we figured out all this equipment that we would like to have. And I thought, this is amazing. We'll set it up, and I'll be able to, document it. If they sit down at the conference table and start having an idea meeting, a story meeting, we'll be able to record it and things like that, and put cameras at other places where they would get together and discuss stuff. And so that all the equipment arrived, the lights arrived, the thing, and then COVID hit, and the office, as far as I know, is still locked, and all that stuff is still in there. So I got everybody, I called all the Cyan people who are working all over the place from their homes, and they've been recording. Some of them I've sent cameras, others, had some of the stuff. I've sent people microphones, done all that kind of stuff. So Rand, in particular, as he has been working on what has now been revealed as the Myst VR, helped me document what he was doing using his own, he had a GoPro, he had an iPhone, we used a laptop, whatever camera we could scrounge together, his iPad, all that kind of stuff in his house. And so documented a lot of fun things, including periodically on Saturdays, it was his day to beta test the Myst VR as each version came down the pike. And his wife, Robin, would sit on the sofa in their living room with an iPad, and he puts on his Quest and would play the game. And then as he saw notes that he had to give, he would shout them out, and Robin writes them down. So we actually have a little clip here, which our amazing director, Drew Salad, is going to play for this. And Joshua edited this from some of the footage that I filmed remotely at the Rand Miller compound, high atop Meade, Washington, on a beautiful mesa. I want to do what Colbert says. Jim, do you have that? Let's roll it.
We do have that.
Roll it, Jim. Thank you, Drew. This is the final version.
There it is. Look
of the game, of the VR.
Look at that. Nice. It's a beauty. It's a thing of beauty. There we are. Wait, I have the wrong hands on the wrong. Let's switch my hands. There we go. Ah, look. Oh, I'm holding the book. Ooh. Look at that. Okay, here we go. Let's open that.
Tease.
Yay.
Yay. Super fun. I got to say, there's so much stuff. It just Rand's always enthusiastic, but it's been particularly poignant watching him go through this particular process because another thing, we have in the footage there from that day, that right when he started that day, he put it on for the first time and he knew this was the final version that they were going to release. So he was watching the finished product essentially. And he just stopped. I know him, and this is not him saying anything special for the camera. He was literally just saying to himself, he's like, I am about to go into Myst in VR on a wireless VR headset that is rendering in real time. And then he just shook his head and hit start. And so it's pretty cool. And it's a beautiful thing. So, Katie, take it away. We got questions?
We do, actually. So I'm going to start with a question we just got in chat from BioCow. Hi, BioCow.
BioCow, hi.
So BioCow says, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I know BioCow actually from a whole nother world, from the Daily Tech News Show and Tom Merritt's podcast and stuff. So
awesome.
Great to see you, BioCow.
Yeah, we're very glad you're here. They ask, sometimes with documentaries, you go in expecting to tell one story and find another. Are there any big twists in the film so far? Which is an excellent question.
There are so many twists. In fact, this is something that, Randy Will and I in particular have been working with. I don't know about twists, but so many powerful, I don't know, how would you call it, Randy? Like there's so many moments where you're like, wow, that is so meaningful, or that echoes on so many different levels. For instance, as I'm battling the auto gain on my mic, it decides to turns me down when it's like, you're not, step it up, guy. Be more.
I would never turn you down, Philip.
Not you. No, it's my mic. It has a mind of its own.
Well, that was a joke.
Oh, thank you. This guy, Mike, however. But yeah, there are moments throughout the history that are amazing. There are stories which are known, and I'm not talking about I don't mean like gossipy stories or things like that. But when the most powerful thing to me, and maybe Randy can just say a few words on this, is when you get to look at an entire story with the kind of long lens that we're doing now, looking back on the whole thing, and our aim is to convey, the spirit behind everything, how the people who made it. You going back, you're looking at things now with an understanding of how a lot of things are going to play out, that are going to happen, but the people at the time don't. And one of the most powerful things in writing these stories, as we call them, sort of in crafting, well, in this scene, you'll hear Rand or Robin talk about this, but for instance, I don't want to use a piece of an interview where they talk about how they knew it would turn out. And when you hear that, the movies, for instance, when you live through it in real time, even a documentary, you're there. So for instance, when they're working in the trailer, you saw in our trailer, when they're working in the trailer outside of Spokane, they don't know they don't know what this Myst thing is going to be. And being able to go in that place and see that. So it's an interesting thing to think about. Not twists in the sense of new revelations, although there are so many stories, because we're talking to so many people too, are coming out, so putting all those in. But really think about also new ways of seeing something, or really taking this thing that was just a fun factoid that you knew, oh yeah, these guys made this thing by themselves, and and really getting into their minds and saying, how must that feel? In fact, Randy, why don't you just talk about, there's that one moment you always refer to from Rand where he realized how big this thing was.
Oh yes, when It was right after they finished Mist, the original one, and it was released, and they just exhausted, and they took some time off. I could finally have a vacation after a year of working on this. And he went to some kind of a video or a computer store in Albuquerque, and he looks up on the wall and he sees this whole array of all Mist games, and he's just like, I was just weeks ago I had finished this thing, and now it's all out here, and it's the biggest seller, right? They're going to be selling out of those things, and he's like, wow, this is really happening. It was kind of a revelation that he brought up again as one of his favorite memories. It was very interesting. And there's so many things when you get to know more about Robin and Rand and how they have different paths, different way of seeing things. That's when you look back at some of the original things they did and realize, okay, that's kind of Rand's influence. That's Robin's kind of thing. So that was very fascinating to know about the childhood and see how it played out later on.
Totally. Actually, maybe Will, do you want to say a word about? We were talking. He unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but Kyle Kelly, who's our incredible cinematographer, who I've worked with in the past too, who is another person a little bit like Ben. When I just saw the footage he was doing, I was like, this is incredible. Kyle's a great cinematographer. And Will and I have been talking to Kyle about boring things like budget, but the fun thing is that boring things like budget, well, it's important for one thing, but it comes from it's how you turn a creative vision into reality. Are you there, Will?
I'm here. Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
Budget
How was that? How did you
very-
feel about that? Well, we had a discussion. We were talking to Kyle about the road trip. We were talking. Tell us a little bit of how Kyle was thinking through. I thought when we were talking about imagining filming by the lake or outside Carlsbad Caverns or something like that.
Totally. So yeah, I mean, so Kyle, like Philip, is really immersed in narrative film and film tradition, and so we spent a lot of time looking at shots from great movies about like how can you make it feel cinematic when you're dealing with these real stories. And sort of for the road trip, part of the idea is to trace through where Rand and Robin's influences came from and go to some of those locations. So it's a question of like, how can you make that happen while making it feel like, Days of Heaven, for instance, or any of these great films that are
Terrence Malick films. Yeah.
And then, with even elements like interviews, if you watch a lot of documentaries, a lot of the, there's ways that are a little flat to do that. And then there's ways that like really make you feel like immersed in this world. And especially when you're telling stories about the past, if you think of great films like Man on Wire, where guys walking across a wire between the Twin Towers, you kind of know because he's sitting there that it goes okay. But you're sort of thrust into that world through this world building that comes from all these elements. So yeah, working with Kyle is going to be super fun on that.
Yeah, totally. In fact, that leads me to I just want to mention this lookbook which we've been talking about, and Jay has been helping us with that. In fact, Jay inspired us. Jay, if you could just explain what does that mean, lookbook, and then if you want to show, do you have your copy there, or I can show? I have it as well.
I sent it to you, so
okay,
probably easy for you to access.
Yeah.
But I mean, lookbooks are basically, if you're treating your movie as a movie, you have to. It's not just the story. It's not just the elements that you're gathering in terms of who you're interviewing, but you want to create an overall look and feel of the movie. And obviously, series of games like Myst that have such a distinct visual style and look to it. Something that I know Phil really wanted to approach this film as he's doing the fundraising and doing the development now, to have a package that sort of shows what the experience of the movie might be like when we make it. Obviously, the idea of documentaries are fluid. Things develop. Artistic projects always are growing and changing as you work on them. But just have sort of a unifying document that sort of shows all the creative team what our goal is. Most importantly, at this point of fundraising and getting the movie out there to kind of show to the world, down the road, this is where we're going with this film. So I was working on one for a fiction film I'm working on. I have a screenplay, and so people can read the screenplay and then, this is how he directed, kind of thing. Rather than do something kind of casual, I went really in depth for it because the movie kind of demanded that, and that really excited Phil about approaching that approach, I think, for Myst as well.
Yeah. So Drew, does this do people's? I'm sharing.
This is never,
Jason.
of course, revealed to the public. Don't steal my movie, guys.
I know.
So tell me, Jay, is this a physical thing as well as a digital thing? Can you share both?
This is digital because that's what people like to see these days. But
Okay.
I think certainly for the Mist world, and this is something that Phil can speak to a bit more specifically, the idea of a document, the idea of a physical object that could be shared.
That could become a collector's item. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly. It's like part of the whole lore of the film of the Mist world. You know, this is something that could actually be nice to be. I know, Phil, you've been. I don't know where you are with this most recently, but I know there's a back and forth idea about creating binders. And,
Yeah. So we saw this, and Jay was showing us this is one of many examples of lookbooks that we looked at, and I was just like, obviously, we were just like, oh my god, this is so Mist. This is so Mist, and the texture is such a cool. Like, look at this this dried flower that's in there, and all these sketches and stuff like that. And look at this stuff was amazing. So our movie will be different, but I think this just gives you a sense of the power of the lookbook and how cool it can be in conveying what the movie could feel like and just raising excitement for it. What I love is that it's a practical document, but it's also a lot of fun and stylish and stuff like that, which is really cool.
And obviously with something as beautiful and rich as the Mist world, the lookbook can become, it will be stunning to look at, and very rich and beautiful.
So we hired, and we are also, again, thank you for your Kickstarter contributions. They go to things like I said, who does, I guess this is a habit that's becoming of mine. I see amazing work and I'm like, who did that? We must work with them. And Jay, how did you find, so Amanda Spielman?
That's right.
She's the artist, graphic artist. Yeah.
Yes. And I worked with her at my previous day job. She's a designer there, and actually I looked through Kevin Marr. So that's going back to the early days of us all doing comedy. Since go back. I mean, filmmakers, artists, but filmmakers in general, it's highly collaborative. We love working with people we know for a long time. And for a piece like this, it is looking back in the past. It seems like you kind of want to draw on your people who knew you when, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I obviously put Phil in contact with her. She's done a lot, used to work a lot doing Broadway posters and movie posters and that kind of thing. And she's currently, I guess, working with you guys to develop whatever the Mist book will be.
Yeah. And she was saying, some these things aren't always printed out, and as time goes by, things are more electronic. Certainly through this bizarre pandemic situation, everything's done remotely. But Will also knows a lot about these, and we're saying, it's the kind of document I like to have when we can meet with people again in person. We meet with someone who might be interested in, helping us continue to fund the film, increase the production value, and we can sit with them and go through this book, and they can get a sense of things, and we use it to raise questions as well as convey, just the professionalism even of the thing. And
she's a real Mist fan too. She was really, when she encountered the game shortly after it came out, it really was transformative for her. So it's something where she's really excited to kind of come up with images that, in the same way that you are as a filmmaker, there's a connection there. I think it's going to be helpful.
Yeah, and she'll be making a movie poster as well, and all kinds of stuff like that. Also, who's someone who's not here, but I want to mention again is Anais Michel, who's in. She lives in New York, but she is from Paris, and when the whole lockdown was starting and it was even more restrictive there in France, she wanted to go home and be with her parents, so she went there, and then she got locked in. She knew she would. She's been working from Paris, and so she's editing scenes for us, and we're going to have we're building up a package of things. We'll have this lookbook, we'll have Randy's helping us write an outline, a story treatment, things like that, and we'll have these scenes which are going to look amazing. And even Joshua, for instance, that little tidbit of Rand playing with the VR, Joshua and another person that Jay helped us bring on, Brian Diaz, help us cut together fun snippets.
Brian's watching right now. He's in the chat.
Oh, hey, Brian. I wonder where you were.
Brian says, footage is looking awesome. It's so much fun looking through these clips.
Awesome. Yeah. both Brian and Joshua, they have a lot of technical expertise too, which is really cool. And Brian in particular, funny story, Jay recommended him to me through, I guess he was a student of yours. And I met Brian and we were talking, and Jay did not know, nor did I, that Brian is a huge video game fan as well. And I actually asked him, I said, if you know, one of these classic job interview questions, if you could do anything you wanted, what would it be? And he had an answer I've never heard anyone else have. He says, well, I love editing. I want to make films, but I also love video games. If I could somehow, combine both those things. So I laughed. I assumed that is why Jay sent it to me. I was like, somebody should really make a documentary about a video game. Brian had a total blank look on his face. And I was like, oh, you don't know? And I said, we got one for you. Come on. So
oh, that's great. That's just great.
Blake, maybe this is a good time to talk about what you, if we give you the lookbook and scenes and
trailer,
yeah. Like if you had a stocking, perhaps,
yes,
that suddenly wound up stuffed with these things.
It would be wonderful. It would be a good Christmas. That's what I've been waiting for since we did the Kickstarter. And just so everybody knows, I mean, the Kickstarter was wonderful. The 260 plus that we raised was such a blessing, and has enabled Philip to assemble this fine collection of people, move forward and keep the things going. But as we've said several times, this is a motion picture. This isn't a making of video. The budget for a film is much more than the 260 we asked for on Kickstarter. That was really to kickstart us. Mm-hmm. And so I will be taking all these elements to Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and Disney and Apple and all the places that are funding programming for what we're calling over-the-top video. And it's a huge market right now. We obviously want to get this in the theaters as well. That's not as much my background as this OTT stuff, but we'll be talking to all the major players, and with these elements, I'm sure we won't have any problem getting the rest of the money we need to raise to finish the film and make it the wonderful documentary that we all know it's going to be because of Philip.
Oh. Well, thank you. Because of all of us.
And what you guys can do to help, I've already put some links in the chats, in both chats, in Twitch and YouTube, is follow us on social media at the Mistdoc, and as well tell all your friends, if they're not backers yet, to go to the Fangamer website, to our to the link there. Yeah, and just tell them to back it, because the more people, the more backers we have, obviously, the more that translates into interest that Blake can take and tell people about us all.
Actually, Katie, that's a really good point. I mean, the other part of the Kickstarter that was important was not just to raise the money, but was also to show the interest, because as we go in, it's not just the elements that I'll bring, but it's also to be able to point to the Kickstarter and say, hey, look, we did this. We were over the 200 we asked for, and the energy and the excitement is out there, and there's a built-in audience, as well as an audience that we know we can bring in as this becomes a story, not just about the game, but about the guys that made the game and what they went through to do it.
Yeah. And going forward, I mean, part of it is a big part of the story that's so heartwarming and powerful to me is the legacy of it. That's sort of a story of them getting to meet some of the people who maybe created some of the programs or the hardware or other tools that they used to make Myst and Riven and on and on and on, and then also meeting people like Alana and a lot of you, others of you who are Myst fans and are creatives as well, out there doing other things. So very cool. More questions?
Yes, we have a question for you from Texture Glitch. Hi, Texture.
Oh, that's a great name.
Yeah. Question for Philip. I've watched the 20 plus hours of behind the scenes stuff on Lord of the Rings.
Right on.
And I kickstarted the Mistdoc. Thank you very much for kickstarting.
Thank you. That's a heady combo of to be mentioned in conjunction with Peter Jackson.
Right. But they backed at the behind the scenes tier. So the question is, will you please inundate us with hours and hours of extra material? They want to see it all.
All right. Yes, I guess. All is
More is more in this case,
more.
I think they're saying.
I so agree with you. In fact, I've mentioned it before that my inspiration even for making this film goes all the way back to the behind the scenes video that came with the Myst video game. And I don't even know how often that happens even today, that there's a behind the scenes thing or something like that. So I'm with you. I love DVD bonus features or whatever they're called now, streaming bonus features, director's commentary, editor's commentary, cinematographer's commentary. I will listen to them all. Fishmonger's commentary,
That's some of the best, don't you find? Like you'll watch the documentary
Incredible.
and it's excellent, and then you watch the behind the scenes stuff and you feel like part of the team as opposed to just an audience member. I think that's what I like about the behind the scenes stuff, like just watching even outtakes, bloopers, any of it. It's just it gives you that feeling of being there when and being on the inside, which as backers you already are. But
I will say it's interesting, actually. I would even ask a question back, and maybe if you want to write in, if we don't have time for talking about it more here, but like what kinds of, so behind the scenes of making of Lord of the Rings, totally different kind of thing than behind the scenes of a documentary, let alone this particular documentary. So I'm guessing you mean more, longer extended interviews and things like that, which I'd very much like to do. One of our things we're definitely creating is will be a book at the very least of the, much more extended transcripts of much more extended interviews, and we'll see what else, anything else we can create. So I'm guessing you mean that, but if you also mean process of making the film itself, I'm interested in what parts of that you'd be.
Okay, I'll watch for Texture's answer.
Yes. Good luck with that glitch. You glitch.
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to talk about, and we already have 10 minutes left, by the way. But so I want to get one thing in before we run out of time, and that way if anybody needs to go at the at the hour mark, they can. Philip has requested that anybody out there who's watching, or either live or after the fact, whether you're a backer or not, if you have images or footage or pictures or videos or journals, any older experiences with Myst, or any of the games, or members of the team at Cyan, past or present, or anywhere in between, he'd love to see them. So send those to information@themystdocumentary.com. And I'm going to put that link into both chats as well.
Information or info?
Is it info?
Probably info.
Oh gosh, don't you have them both?
Send them all.
Sure, I'll fix that now. So try info first. If that doesn't work, try information.
Yes. And you can always go to philipshane.com.
Right.
Find me
or themystdocumentary.com. Yeah.
Right.
Texture has an answer for you, which is yes, extended interviews and the details that viewers wouldn't normally know about, the things that only hardcore geeks would be interested in. We are an audience different from the Netflix crowd who can't get enough Myst lore.
Yeah, I am you. So yes,
yeah.
I hear you.
Absolutely. He is you. and you are.
I am.
Okay.
Another question.
That's it for questions. Most people are just agreeing and nodding along and really enjoying. Like we've had a lot of compliments, a lot
Excellent.
of I agree with you, Philip. I agree with you, Philip. So we wanted to talk. You mentioned you may have already talked about it, but talking about the way Anais is cutting a scene or cuts a scene. That was something you were going to talk about. So.
Yeah, well, I could talk about that. What we comes back to the idea that we're showing this as a movie and not just I hate to say just YouTube video, because to be honest, I watch YouTube all the time, and I would put YouTube in that category of DVD bonus features in some ways, or whatever. It's just like it's unbelievable the amount of stuff you can learn. And so I'm always watching stuff on YouTube, not just in gaming, but science and whatever, all kinds of things, movie making and things like that. But the important thing is that this is a narrative. Well, it's a documentary, but it has a narrative. It's a biography. We put you in the place and we live through these stories, and you feel how it felt to be the people in the story as we go through it. And it transports you across time and all that kind of thing. As music, it's a powerful emotional experience. And Anais happens to be, by the way, a really wonderful documentary film editor who I've known for a number of years. And so actually, Will and I were talking to her in Paris. We weren't in Paris. We were talking to her in Paris just the other day. And I was saying, for instance, one thing Will was saying is, one thing that's going to be fun to have is, and we love to give Blake and his demonstration package stuff to show around, is there's a lot of interesting technical people, especially Silicon Valley. You can imagine there's also Blake knows a lot of, you're familiar with the world that some of you in the audience may be from as well. And I know a big part of our Kickstarter backers, there's people who just love collecting computer hardware, computer history, or just learning it or teaching it, and retro gaming, and on and on and on, the history of graphics, et cetera, game, video game, VR, all that kind of stuff. So we have so many things like that. And that Rand tidbit, the little Rand tidbit we saw, and you can imagine things going all the way down to the level of like things that, Texture Glitch was talking about, super nerdy detailed stuff we can put together. And I'm looking forward to having Joshua and Brian work on that kind of thing that we put together. Also, like I've been at PAX, I've been at, a whole lot of conventions with the guys, and filmed a lot of the people we met there, a lot of the developers, as well as a lot of the fans. If you were there, I may have you in the footage, and we just have a treasure trove of that kind of stuff. People crying as they're waiting to get Rand's autograph, for instance, of all ages, by the way, for real. Anais, I said, I was talking to Will and Anais, and I said, look, the thing is, Anais is a filmmaker. And this is, I want you to notice a commonality here, too, about how much we talked about film. Even to the point, if I sound like a broken record, it's important. Randy is, one thing we haven't even mentioned is Randy is essentially a film scholar and a film, devotee and lover of cinema, as is Will, as am I, as all the people here, Jay, and Anais as well. So I said, let's start showing people scenes that do things like convey the emotion of it. For instance, we have footage, some of you may have even seen, I've shown at Mysteriums in the past, highlight reels of different things I've collected. One of them being, for instance, a visit to the Computer Museum in Seattle, which was super awesome. And I went there with both brothers. And that could be edited. And you could imagine cutting a scene like that where Rand is visiting all these old computers and he's lighting up and he's full of excitement, as he always is. But like he sees computers like old family members, like, oh my gosh, I used you at the bank. I remember when I first got to play on this when I was
It's my old
high
speak
school.
and spell.
Yeah. Then there's the thing you see in the trailer, a little thing. He made a computer and all that kind of stuff. Now you can cut those many different ways. You can cut that with funny music. You can cut it with action music. You can cut it with no music, and a range of ways. But the way that interests me the most is going to be, if you notice in the trailer, there's a little moment where he sits down at an iMac and plays the original Myst on CD-ROM, which the people at the Computer Museum were like so thrilled to see him come in, and they had brought all this out. They knew he was coming. They brought out all these original things, set up that computer, all that kind of stuff. And I want to feel all the feelings that Rand felt at that moment, which were quite complex. One thing he said, I don't think we have the bite in the trailer, but one thing he said was, I said to him, how does it feel to be playing this game, sitting here and playing this? And he said, well, like many emotions, but one of them is I feel really tired looking at all these trees, because we had to paint each one of them because they look so
the memory makes him
too coarse. Well, I get that, right? I mean, anyone who's I don't know if those of us who went to college, for instance, who I go back to my college and I go into the library, for instance, walk into the old library, I immediately feel tired because it takes me back to doing term papers there and late nights and all that kind of stuff. But imagine what I love about documentaries is you're seeing the real people. So it's not an actor playing Rand, and this is a real computer, and this is a real game, and yeah, it's a museum, but whatever. Imagine just being able to be there with him. Imagine getting to be, and from my point of view, who I was filming, imagine getting to be somebody there with one of the great creators of one of the things that meant so much to you in your life, but how does it feel for that person to sit there and reflect? And we have great interviews. And for instance, one thing Randy will be doing as we work on the script I talked about, you'll hear sound bites. Maybe you could hear a sound bite as he's looking at that, but also just getting to see him. And if the movie has been showing you his life and Robin's life and all the other people around him up to the point where he's remembering and afterwards and things like that, you will really understand. There'll be a lot of emotional power there, and you will understand things in a way. And when the movie's over, you will go to play Myst again, whether in VR or go all the way back to the original or anything in between, and you will feel like you have lived some of that experience that the creators of it felt. So that's just really, that is the kind of thing that only I think movies can do. So I know this is a little abstract, but that's sort of the idea. And I guess we'll be cutting, let's just say, scenes with feeling, scenes of emotional power.
I think it's also was fascinating too with that was they were working on such primitive equipment at the time. They were kind of inventing the equipment as they went, and they had to make everything was like its own little image while he's behind me. It would all be done in wireframe, and no one could see what it looked like. It was just wires, and then they press the button and say render, and it would take like 9 hours to come up with the image, and then suddenly it would just appear as magic. And that they had to do that hundreds of times to get every image, which is amazing to do that, and it takes so long to see it and still keep it in their mind what they wanted. So I think that's an amazing part of the whole journey.
Yeah. I can also refer to, Joshua was mentioning Being Elmo or some of the other movies. I mean, so those are documentaries I know intimately because I worked on those, but there's other great documentaries too, especially about artists or, performing artists or artists of any kind. And if you've seen those, think about the difference between those and, for instance, in Being Elmo, you can watch Being Elmo, and there was a similar just diehard, devoted, wonderful, full of love and devotion and spirit community around the Muppets as there is around Myst. In fact, there's some overlap, I know. And, some of those stories that are in Being Elmo, I'm sure they knew they'd heard plenty of times, and there may be, any number of news stories done and books written and all that kind of stuff. But it's a real difference when you get to meet the actual person and go with, for instance, in that movie, the puppeteer went back to the house where he lived with his entire family in really, really, really poor part of Baltimore City, and was reflecting on the incredible journey that he went on. That's a powerful experience. So.
That's why you're so excited about the road trip with the brothers.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, I think we have time for one final question, and that is, it's from BioCow again, and they ask, this is a good question, and it affects everybody, but how has COVID affected production? Because it really has. I mean, we had to really pivot, the last time we were all together, or some of us were together in person, was at PAX East in Boston. And even then, we were already just starting to feel the effects. Remember?
That's right. That was bizarre.
We weren't hugging. We weren't shaking hands. We were bumping elbows. And then from there, and they were sanitizing doorknobs and escalator, And then from there, we came home and we never left again. So all the plans we had for this summer and meeting you all at Mysterium, and, we even changed the timing of the Kickstarter based on COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So how has it affected a production of the documentary?
Well, the main thing would be that it's, like I mentioned, I've had to do, remote filming or no filming at all. I was going out there, and I would have been, thanks to
you would have been out there 3 more times since,
much more. Kyle and I would have been out there, and I do not want to forget my sound person Kevin Hastings, who's with us always, who's amazing. A lot of that, and in particular the road, the road trip is such a cool element of the thing. Is like, it'll come, but like we're waiting for everyone to be okay again. Yet, I got to say, as a filmmaker or as just someone who, those of us who love Myst, we love puzzles, we love challenges, especially technical challenges, and it created all these bizarre situations. Like, how do we do this? And I know that, each person I've worked with and said, okay, how can we continue going? Like Robin, I talked to Robin. I talk to Robin. I try to talk to him anywhere from once a month to once a week, depending on what phase I'm in and what interview questions I have for him and what's going on in his life. Loved. He said, okay, well, how do we do this? And so I sent him a ring light. I sent him a lavalier that records to itself. He set up his. We tried all kinds of different ways of just getting some lighting and stuff so that he could sit in his studio and talk about stuff. By the way, really, I can't say what it is, but just I don't want to make it too dramatic, but like Robin, one thing that happens when you start making a documentary is the people in the film start really getting into remembering the history and get more active. For instance, Robin was thinking about all this. He's like, and he went and he found some original documents that he had thought may have been lost. He'd spent many times looking for them over the years, but then he finally got them. So he's found these really cool things, these original drawings, all kinds of cool stuff that he hadn't seen in years because they've been sitting at the bottom of a closet that no one even knew it was there. How do we film this? So we've had to do that. We had to come up with ways. With Cyan, it's been particularly interesting because they all ended up working at home. And I tell you, that's an interesting story, which will be, I don't know how there's so many stories, how many will get into the film, but the story of how they continued to work, to do their work, instantly having to do it remotely was a fascinating challenge for them. One weird benefit was that they all had to meet on Zoom, just like we're doing now. So in a strange way, I asked them to, and they've been fantastic about this, record many of those creative meetings they're having, many of this stuff. And then especially when they were working on the VR, the fact that it's VR, so like they'd be demonstrating for each other. So one of the people is in the game walking around and other people are talking about it. And you're seeing all of that on screen. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's super cool. So that wouldn't have happened if I was in the office. We would have definitely been documenting it, but it would have been a completely different experience. So how about you guys? Joshua, how has this been for you? Because normally we would have, maybe we wouldn't, I think we would have been working together anyway, but like you're down in Philadelphia, I'm up in New York. All of us are all over the place, even those of us who are disconnected from each other because we don't feel like traveling through the COVID hellscape that exists on public transportation or wherever.
Being a part of this production during COVID is very surreal for me because I'm here in my room and you all are out there and I'm able to go into Zoom and chat with you all about the project and about the doc. And I'm able to do all this from the comfort of my own room. And this sort of thing, I feel like, it might have happened, but I feel like it wouldn't have happened so much if we weren't all connected through the power of technology. That's like the thing that I keep going back to is that it was very random. I reached out to Philip. I sent him an email. We bonded over. We went to the same school. We went to the same college. So that was incredible. And just the fact that I'm able to do something like this and work with everyone here, it's very inspiring. And I feel like if anybody is interested in working on projects now is the time to do something like that. Because you really have all the tools and everything at your disposal. Like I've been going through and looking at footage. We've been sharing things. We've been talking about things. I can't say anything about it because that's that's taboo. But
like you and for instance, Brian is in New Jersey, right? And you're down in Philadelphia, and which an inch away is as good as a mile, as they say. So you could be anywhere in the world.
It's the great equalizer, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're all we're all the same. There's no velvet rope when you're all on Zoom.
Yeah, I must say I've been working. Interestingly, I've actually been working remotely in a way, or using since 2005. Partly because I loved it, and so once the internet got fast enough for to have video or different things like that, I've always been interested in pushing that limit, and that allowed me to, for instance, work with people. I've worked with people in London. I've worked with people in Thailand, and all kinds of different things, France, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that everyone is going through this together and everyone is remote, it just added this whole intensity. I mean, even there's a company we use to allow us to be able to access to put our whatever files we need to access and things like that, put them online. And this company, I wanted to go to one that was really good. So I found out, well, what's the industry standard? Oh, there's a site that all the movie studios use. I said, okay, we're going to use that. And I was talking to them, and it was hilarious. They were like, this is amazing. Like, we've generally been working with Sony and Columbia, or, whatever, the big studios. And they don't even have like their plans. There's basic and there's enterprise. And there was nothing in between. And they're like, this is a whole new world. All of a sudden, all these people are doing this work, which is also a testament to the democratization of the technology and things like that. So a lot of cool stuff. But I would say, if I would just come back down to maybe a more human level, here's a fun thing. If everyone could just say 1 or 2 words that come to mind about how this how the whole COVID thing and being able to work together has affected you, I would say elated and grateful for the
that's nice,
for the technology, and honestly, even for the parts of the experience that can be positive in the midst of the rest of it.
What about you, Will?
Yeah, I think, well, gratitude's a great word. I think, just seeing what people are going through and being able to work on a project like this, being able to do that remotely with such a great team. I mean, it's a real privilege. And I know that's more than a few words, but those are my COVID time thoughts.
That's allowed. Blake, Sir Blake?
I don't know. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I like working from home. So I'm just enjoying that everybody else has joined me.
I hear you.
There you go. Randall?
Yeah, I pretty much would say just no difference, because being out in Seattle, I'm talking to Phil, it's so much easier to do this than have him fly out here like I used to. It would take a full day and I mean, I'd love to go to Spokane with you sometime and meet them all, but
yes,
this is the next best thing, and it's like I said, it's very introverted. So
yeah. That being said, I missed the futon. I missed the futon that I would crash on.
I'm looking right at it right now.
And your cat is not introverted, Randy.
Wow.
I'm just,
my God,
he
knows I'm talking to the here, so he wants to Zoom bomb me. Yeah.
Joshua?
Yes.
What do you have a couple words to say about what it's been like?
Yeah.
I mean, you did a good job already, but
I've gone on about it, but yeah, the main thing that comes to mind is extremely lucky and very enthusiastic. I mean, this is incredible. I'm starstruck being here. It's amazing to be able to work with you all, and I hope to continue doing it for a while. Thank you.
Right on.
Jay?
I think any setback you have on a project, or any real curveball you have, is an opportunity. And I think right now we've been spending a lot of time thinking about what's important about the story, what's the core of it, why are we doing movies at all, and this one specifically, and then and sort of I think communicating it to ourselves clearly over the course of these past months is going to, I think, end up with a stronger film. So it's been a real chance to sort of step back, and think about why we're here.
That's excellent. Yeah, kind of getting out of our own way a bit. Alana?
Yeah, I initially connected with Philip through very geographic means, through being at Mysterium over the summer of 2019, and then through discovering, wow, we both live in Brooklyn, we can meet up over coffee, and that felt very fortuitous. But I think being able to switch into this remote context has allowed me to have experiences I never expected to have, like being on a shared virtual space, a Zoom room with like both Rand and Robin, and with Philip and with all of you. It's definitely been an honor and opened up my world and kind of kept me going, honestly, during this time. So I'm humbled and grateful.
Right on.
And Benny Lou, as I like to call you.
Can't escape from it. No matter
so
how
sorry.
much hair I grow on my face.
Is that a
It's
character? That sounds like a
No.
persona.
It's just my term of
It's
endearment for
Benny
him.
Lou.
Yes, yes. I'm in some, unrelated way her child in a different dimension. So
It's true. It's
Yes.
true.
But I would just say like introspection catalyst. It's been a time to kind of catalyze, developing different skill sets that, had different jobs and was waiting tables and got laid off because of COVID, because the restaurant industry. And that allowed me to just dive really deep into Unreal Engine and Godot and like some, different technologies to just bolster my skill set to make myself more, attractive in the industry. So in a way, it's given me the excuse to go back to school, so to speak, and kind of, become introspective in, what skills do I want to develop and who do I want to become and, which path do I want to take in my life. So I've used it to my advantage, and I've been lucky enough to remain healthy and to not catch COVID and to, not really have anyone that I know affected by COVID. So I'm incredibly blessed by that. So I've taken the opportunity to kind of refine myself. So for that, I'm actually very grateful, but it's still, I'm actually Myers-Briggs. I'm just barely over into the extrovert category. So I actually still need connection with people. So I have not enjoyed not being able to have that. So that's where
So
I'm at.
has your dad enjoyed you running in to grab him every chance you get, I hope?
No, not at all. He has not enjoyed that at all. I have, but he has not. So.
For me, I'm going to say, since my kids have grown and moved out, this is how I get to see them a lot. Like we see them in the driveway or on the front porch, but often we have Zoom game nights or Zoom family gatherings, especially at holidays. So work and personal has kind of been coming at us the same way. So for me, if I have been extra familiar with you guys, blowing kisses and saying I love you, you know why. It's just because it's my behavior on Zoom with everybody else I know. But I really do feel this as a family. I feel like the Mist community is a family. I feel like Cyan is a family, and we're an extension of their family. And so working with this team, that's why you get the terms of endearment and stuff, because we are a family. We're just a microcosm of the Mist family in general. So everybody that backed and everybody that's watching or didn't back and wasn't able to watch yet but will, we just appreciate and love all of you so much, because you are part of the family that this film is about. Was that 2 words?
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And by the way, I think blowing kisses and stuff, that's proper Zoom etiquette. Zoom etiquette. That's wonderful. Yes. Lastly, I have to say that, in terms of gratitude, the deepest gratitude goes to everyone out there who's helped us at whatever level. It doesn't matter, or if you just sending good vibes our way, or if you want to share some archival stuff you have or stories you've had about Mist or anything, if you just like supporting independent film, that's great. And I do know that we were talking about COVID, and this looks like it'll end, which is good. But we did this Kickstarter really it was hot, it was going strong, and all of you gave. A lot of people said, but somebody even had written in the New York Times how Mist in particular was just seemed like one of the many places you could go for a refuge at this time. And I think the community, just connecting. I know the whole Mysterium community, the fact that it had to happen online was a special thing that everybody could connect. Anyway, I'll just say the fact that you supported this thing. I think I know Alana and all my fellow film and documentary and independent film people here and independent game people, I'm sure it's the same thing, know that this is a wicked terrible time for the business, for so many businesses, right? I mean, there's a million restaurants out my door that unfortunately all their little outdoor restaurants or little outdoor seating areas are currently buried in snow. And that didn't stop any of you, and you have the privilege to be making art is special anyway. And So I thank you for that. And to have done it at this time is incredible. And so, as we come as holiday time, I hope we can, we'll be giving you back something as much as we can throughout. So I hope everybody stays in touch, and we'll continue. Katie, we'll be having more updates coming.
We will.
We're going. Everybody keep in touch, and thank you for your support in whatever way you were doing it. And I know everybody here feels the same way.
Thank you, Philip, and everybody who was on the panel, and a huge thank you to Drew Salad, who you actually can't see. Maybe he'll turn on his camera. Maybe.
Hi.
Thank you for being our behind-the-scenes tech support tonight, and all through the Kickstarter and all through Mysterium as well. You're excellent, and we love you. Thanks for coming out, everybody. We had fun tonight, and we got to kind of say happy holidays to everybody right before Christmas. So right after Hanukkah and before Christmas. So thanks to everybody.
Indeed.
Yay.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, Katie.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Katie.